It's been a couple of weeks now since Australia became one of the founding members of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and Australian businesses are still grasping what that means for them and the potential impacts on the infrastructure sector in Asia and what potential opportunities it might present for them. Therefore, we're very pleased today to be able to speak with Tan Sri Dato Dr. Michael Yeoh. Dr. Yeoh is the chairman of the World Chinese Economic Forum and also the CEO and founder of the Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute, which is one of Asia's leading think tanks. Dr. Yeoh is in Sydney at the moment as part of the prestigious Bo-Au Forum, where he's a panellist on the topic of regional financial architecture, along with leading experts such as Governor Glenn Stevens of the Reserve Bank of Australia. We wanted to take this opportunity to speak with you today, Dr. Yeoh, because we wanted to get your unique insight into the AIIB and the potential impacts that it will have on the infrastructure sector across Asia and, frankly, the potential opportunities for Australian businesses. So thank you very much for joining us today. I guess to start with, it'd be really great to get your thoughts on why the AIIB was established and its key policy objectives.
Thank you, Nick. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you here this afternoon. The AIIB, I think, is a very important initiative for Asia. Although it is initiated by China, we would like to see the AIIB as an international bank and not just a Chinese bank. I think there has been a lot of misperception that AIIB is just purely a Chinese bank. If you were to look at the shareholding structure of the AIIB that was finalized not too long ago, China only has a 30% shareholding in AIIB, and the other countries from the region as well as from Europe would comprise the other 70%. Now, AIIB is important because there is a huge infrastructure gap in many of the countries of Asia, in particularly the ASEAN countries of Southeast Asia. The ASEAN leaders at the Economic Summit several years ago have adopted an ASEAN Connectivity Master Plan. And the primary purpose of this Connectivity Master Plan is to build infrastructure, ports, airports, roads, rails, and many other infrastructure projects like telecommunications and power plants and so on. And there has been an estimate that there is a huge gap in infrastructure financing. And AIIB will hopefully address this need for infrastructure financing in Asia.
Okay. And how do you see it either being different to or working with other development banks in the region, such as the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and even the new development bank that's being established by the BRICS countries? Yeah.
I would like to say that we do not see AIIB working in isolation with any of the established financial institutions in the world that have been playing a very important role in economic development. The World Bank, the IMF, the AIIB have all played significant roles in economic development. The only difference is that the Asian Development Bank, the AIIB, and the World Bank have placed a great deal of emphasis on poverty eradication. Yeah. And I think a lot of that has been done. I think poverty has already been brought down to very low levels in many of the countries of Asia, although there are still pockets of poverty, but the infrastructure needs have hardly been addressed yet. Yeah. I think if you were to look at many of the ASEAN countries, particularly in Vietnam, Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia, there are huge gaps in infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of rail, in terms of ports and airports. Yeah. And then AIIB will probably be able to provide financing for those particular infrastructure projects. So AIIB will be infrastructure focused, whereas World Bank and AIIB will be more poverty focused.
Yeah, okay. And just to pick up something you touched on there, do you see those types of projects being the main projects that the AIIB focuses on in the short term and even the longer term, such as airports and rail, ports and things like that? Yeah.
But there could be also bigger
Yeah.
projects later on, like building oil and gas pipelines, for example.
Yeah.
There is a plan to put together also a trans-ASEAN grid, electricity grid, and those could be things that AIIB can be looking at financing.
Yeah, okay. And do you think it will have a big impact on economic growth, either in the region generally or in particular parts of Southeast Asia?
I think the improvement in infrastructure would definitely be a big boost for economic development in almost all of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, okay. And what organisations and institutions do you think are most likely to benefit from the bank's focus? And I suppose particularly from our perspective, do you think there's an opportunity for Australian companies, for example, to participate in these projects?
I think there's huge potential
Yeah.
for Australian companies and Australian business to be part of the infrastructure growth in Asia, and perhaps to be providing services to AIIB.
Yeah.
I think you have a lot of expertise in professional services areas, including engineering services, architectural services, legal services, accounting services, as well as being able to assist in logistics development and logistics planning.
Yeah.
So I think the Australian companies that would stand to benefit will be people in the logistics industry, supply chain, as well as professional services companies.
Yeah, sure. And onto a slightly controversial topic, but obviously two of the countries that haven't participated are the United States and Japan. Do you have any thoughts on their emission at this stage, or do you think that they'll join, and do you think it'll have any impact if, for example, they never joined the AIIB?
It will be good to see the US and Japan as part of AIIB, because as I've said earlier, we do not want AIIB to be just a Chinese dominant bank. It should be an international bank. And an international bank must have the US and Japan as shareholders or partners in that. Yeah. I think I have seen a reduction in the resistance from the US towards the AIIB. Similarly, we have also seen that Japan has been indicating or signaling an interest to be part of AIIB at some stage in the future. Yeah. And eventually, I could even envisage the US becoming a part of AIIB.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much for your time here today, Dr. Yeoh.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.